Guys, and welcome once again. Today we are going to talk about the average if and average ifs functions. So, as we said, these are a little more complicated functions, and we will be using criteria, as I put for you guys here, whether you want your criteria to be equal to, less than, more than, less than or equal to, or more than or equal to. I placed the text that you will be writing for those specific criteria. So the way that the average if function works is you will have a range, you will have a criteria for that range, and then you will have your average range. So why do we have two ranges? So the reason why is because we don't just want to take the average of something, right? We want to take the average of something that meets a criteria. So while the average function just takes the average of the range of cells that we tell it to, the average if tells it to take the range from the fact that that something already met a criteria. So it will make sense as we just look at the first example. So the first example says, use the average if function to calculate the average GPA for the students that are graduating. Okay, so as you can see, that we're going to take the average GPA. So that's going to be our average range, and it goes at the end. And then we have, we're going to do it to the students that are graduating. So not to any student, only to the ones that are graduating. Okay, so how do we put that into a formula? We have here the column for the average if, and we're going to start off with our equal sign. We're going to write average if, open the parentheses, and here we get the little description, just like I put for you guys over there. So first we have the range, which is the criteria range. It doesn't say it here, but that's what it is. So what are we trying to classify, or what are we trying to label, or not label, sorry, just like separate, right? We're just trying to get the range, get the GPA from certain types of students, not any student. So we have this column, that is the graduating column. We made it using the if function that we discussed in one of the prior videos, and you can go back to see how it was made, but for now we can see that we only have 3 students that meet the criteria, so we expect to only have 3 students GPA be accounted for when taking the average. So we have that range. And what is the criteria? The criteria is that it needs to say graduating. So our criteria is equal to, you could say. So you can either type the text that it will be equal to, or the value within parentheses, or you can click on a cell that has exactly what you want it to be equal to. So we can write graduating like this, and it will work just fine. Or we can just click on a cell that says graduating on it, so that will work as well. we click we type comma, and that will take us to the next section of the function. So now we need the average range. So after we have put the criteria range and the criteria that we wanted to classify with, now we want to say, okay, what are you actually trying to get the average from? And for us, that is the GPA. So we will just put this, and we don't have to put any criteria. We're just saying, after you separate the students that we do not want from the ones that we do want, you will take the average from this column. That's all we're telling it. So we will close it, and we get the 3.46. Okay, right now, since it's just 10, we can just visually see it, and we will just do a quick little little formula to function to make sure that it's right. So we see these 3 students. It should have only taken the average from these 3 students. And what are their values? 8,000, 7,004. No, sorry, it's not income. It's the GPA. Okay, so if we were to do a normal average, right? Instead of putting the criteria, we're just gonna click on the GPA cells individually. So we have the first graduating, we have the second graduating, and we have the third graduating. So if our function on the top worked fine, what it did is it basically separated the students that were graduating from the ones that weren't, and it took the average GPA just from those students. So as we can see, it is the same thing. Our formula told it to separate and then take the average from those that like met the criteria. Okay, now average ifs. Our example for that says use the average ifs function to calculate the average GPA for the students that are graduating and have honor roll. So now we have 2 criteria, and that's what ifs means. Ifs means that you're not only asking for one criteria now. You're asking for multiple, 2 or more. So right here we're going to write average ifs with the S, and now you can see it's a little bit different, the summary. Now instead of having that average range, which is what we want to get the average from at the end, we have it at the start now. Okay, so instead of putting that average range for GPA at the end, we're gonna have it at the start. Okay, now that we have the average range for GPA, what are the criteria that we want to put? So we want the students that are graduating, right? Just like the previous one. So we will select all of those and then click on a cell that says graduating, because that is our criteria. It has to be equal to that. It has to say the same thing. Okay, and our second criteria range will be whether the student is an honor roll or not. So we will highlight all of that, and we will put our criteria as equal to honor roll, and we can type that too. We can type it or click on the cell that says honor roll, whichever one you guys feel like it's easier. Just make sure that you don't make any spelling errors whenever you type all of those individual cells or any data that you're using, because a small difference, like a letter, could mean that it is not equal to honor roll. It could be honor rows that you just wrote, and it will not count it anymore because it is not honor roll. So we'll click enter, and we see that we get the same answer. Why? Because all the students that are graduating coincidentally also have honor roll, so it did not take any of those out. But if one of them were to not have been included, like if I just delete that, you see how it already shifts it. Why? Because one of the students didn't meet that second criteria. And if we take another one out, it should just be equal to the one that is left over, which is 3.2, and there you go. Remember, to go back, it's Command Z if it's on Mac, and if it's on Windows, it's Control Z. So there. And that will be it for the average if and average ifs. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video, and if you guys have any questions, just leave them down below. I'll do my best to answer them, and thank you for watching.